For me, I've been really proud of my agency, but I think the fact that like in my first year in a new school, I've been able to say, hey, this project that's traditionally been done, I think we can revamp it and do this totally other thing instead. And I think just being able to like take the initiative and do that is something I'm very proud of.
Having the positive relationship is really tangibly contributes to the student seeing themselves as being like potentially successful and then therefore succeeding.
Kind of that reminder that not everything went perfectly the first time around, and that's okay. And feeling comfortable acknowledging that with my students and being like, all right, this thing clearly is not working right now. Let's, what feedback do you have for me? How can we move forward together to improve this learning experience for all of you?
Proudest of, I think it's sort of how I've developed, and it doesn't really apply with this distance learning thing as much, but how I had developed my own classroom and sort of the systems that I used. And I think what I was especially proud of was everything that I ended up with had a purpose, and a purpose that I found meaningful.
Just thinking about design and trying to really get at what matters to my colleagues and what matters to them that's kind of driving them to make the decisions that I don't necessarily love. I think that's kind of allowed me to have a little bit more empathy.
There was just so much of focus on things like try, learn, try, and co-designing with the user and putting the user at the center of our intentions. Telling students I'm going to be trying this now and feeling okay with that is a mentality that I've gotten because of my time here very much.
Really putting at the forefront, thinking through what could be the reasons, when I'm seeing when a student is frankly being a total jerk to me, for me to be like, have the tools to kind of think like, okay, where is this behavior coming from, and consider the user experience from like the design thinking.
I still will always preach that the best experiences I had at the graduate school were like in my OSTs and like while I was doing learning journeys and like while I was able to do stuff. Any opportunity to just design a thing and actually do it and sort of test the boundaries of like what I was capable of designing and producing, I think were some of the experiences that like allowed me to go into a classroom and feel like I could adapt. And like, especially now that I basically was like, let me take my entire curriculum, redesign it in 2 weeks and take it online. Like I was able to do that because the academy taught me how to design stuff.
I knew this, but didn't like know this. The more that I can like actually learn about my students and the more that I provide them with opportunities to tell me about themselves, like the better off everyone will be.
Kind of interesting to learn from each of my students just through like careful observation and trial and error. Like what are their particular, like very particular circumstances that they need in order to be as successful as I know that each of them can be.
It's like anything is fixable. Like I can think of like lessons or moments that I had where like something went horribly awry and we were able to reset and talk about it and move on. And then the next day we like redid it and it went great and it was fine. And they were all like, this is awesome.
So my advice would be, don't be afraid to use what already exists.
Laugh with your students.
Don't give yourself unnecessary work is kind of what I was thinking.
And if you don't ask, you're gonna be lost. So you better be the one to ask. And don't be afraid to ask.
Set some like really serious limits for yourself on how much you're going to spend with planning, because there's no end to what you could do.
So you want to build student boundaries like I have a rubber band, I don't know if you can see it, like a rubber band, or like these are my boundaries. These are what I tell students my boundaries are, but not really because they can stretch. Like these are my real boundaries, but I tell students they're like this. So that when students do stretch me, they stretch me within my boundaries, not beyond them.